No.
The first thing I have to ask for is a volunteer to take minutes for this meeting, because as you can see, Diane is in her taxi and not able to be here maybe till the end of the meeting. So would somebody please volunteer to take minutes for this meeting?
Got it.
I can't hear anything.
My problem is I'll say I'll do it and then I won't. So I'm not going to say I'll do it.
I'm useless
Mhm.
doing it.
Okay, I'll try to write as much. I'll try to write as much as I can. They're delayed a half hour, so I'm gonna write as much as I can, but I'm gonna put the phone down.
Okay, thank you, Diane. First thing on the agenda is to approve the agenda that was sent to everybody. So, oh, actually, I'm forgetting. I have to read my script. Ugh, I'd like to forget this totally, but hang on, everybody, while I read the script for Zoom meetings. As a preliminary matter, I'm Mary Ann Easley, Chair. Permit me to confirm that all members and persons anticipated on the agenda are present and can hear me. Members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Allison,
Yes.
Diane,
Yes.
Vanessa, not here. Kendra,
Yes.
Jude,
Yes.
Susie, not here. Nancy,
Yes.
Linda, not here, and myself here. Staff, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Jericho, here. Laura,
Here.
here. Okay. Good afternoon. This open meeting of the Council on Aging is being conducted remotely pursuant to Chapter 20 of the Acts of 2021. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. This meeting will not feature public comment. For this meeting, the Council on Aging is convening by video conference via Zoom app as posted on the town's website, identifying how the public may join. Please note that the meeting is being recorded and that all attendees are participating by video conference. Accordingly, please be aware that other folks may be able to see you and to take care not to screen share your computer. Anything that you broadcast may be captured by the recording. All supporting materials that have been provided members of this body are available on the town's website unless otherwise noted. The public is encouraged to follow along using the posted agenda. We're now turning to some ground rules, which are very brief. One is please remember to mute your phone or computer when you're not speaking. And please remember to speak clearly in a way that helps generate accurate minutes. And please identify yourself for the purpose of the secretary. So that's the end of the script. Now I have to ask for approval of the agenda. Can I get someone to make a motion for that purpose? Anyone?
Allison moves to approve the agenda.
Thank you. Second.
Second.
Okay, and I have to go down the list for everybody's approval. So please say yes or no. Allison,
Yes.
Diane. I'm going to assume yes. Kendra,
Yes.
Jude,
Yes.
Nancy,
Yes.
Mary Ann, yes. Next is approval of the minutes of our previous meeting of November 3rd. Everyone should have had a chance to read these since Laura came out in advance. So will someone make a motion to approve the minutes of our last meeting?
This is Kendra. I approve.
Second,
I
Second.
second it.
who was that?
Jude?
Jude.
Jude, second. Is there any discussion or any comments on the minutes of the last meeting?
I thought they were excellent. Thank you, Diane, for doing them.
I agree. Thank you, Diane.
You're
So
welcome.
again, I have to get everyone's approval, so please say yes. Allison,
Yes.
Diane, yes. Kendra,
Yes.
Jude,
Yes.
Nancy?
Yes.
Mary Ann, yes. Okay, thank you very much, everybody. Now we'll move on to the guts of the meeting. The first agenda item is I prepared a draft of our plan to go ahead with providing safety home modifications for seniors. Laura sent it out to everybody in advance, and I'm hoping to get your feedback. If you haven't had a chance to read it, please do so and jot your comments or changes on it, and you can email it back to Laura. But I'd like to get as much input from council members as possible. So does anybody have any comments that they want to make about this plan?
I think it looks great. It would.
I
might
thought it
be-
was, I thought it was,
Go ahead. It'd be nice to have a poster child, like someone that we knew needed it, that we could use as an example.
They may be embarrassed to do that, though.
Oh, well, they shouldn't be.
Well,
I mean, if we could find somebody like my mother wouldn't be if she was still alive. But just, so people could see what it is that we do. And does anyone know anyone that needs that kind of stuff?
I know somebody who's already asked me. I don't know if she would be willing to be a poster child, but I could certainly ask her. But one person has already come to me and said she knows that she would like a grab bar. So, and this is without really reaching out to anybody. But once we reach out just to people, it's possible we will easily find people willing to be a poster child.
A poster senior.
Okay.
this is Kendra. I'm wondering, is this going to be announced somewhere, or is it just going to be word of mouth? Is it going to be through obviously through the Salt Marsh, but is this something that, I mean, I know the fire department, didn't we say that they can't tell you people that need to, I mean, isn't there a privacy factor on that? I for some reason, I don't know if I dreamt it or not, but I thought we would maybe get some info from the fire department about who needs stuff, but then does anybody ring a bell that they weren't going to give us name, or couldn't, or weren't allowed?
Well, Sherry Hunt at ESCCI already does have a couple of people who she knows.
Oh, good. Okay.
So I think that filling the pipeline of needy people is not going to be as difficult as finding actual handyman or carpenters to do the work. I'm seeing that as probably more difficult, recruiting those people. Actually, I'd like to, Jericho, are you still here?
I am, and I was just about to chime in with a comment regarding that, which is that we're still waiting on the prevailing wage information, which would be what we would use as the quote per hour or per job, or however hour it ends up working out. I believe it's an hourly wage. So that should be, I'm just waiting to hear back from finance on what the prevailing wage is, and that way we can start soliciting contractors using that as that number.
I would like to say also, it would help to know more about the town's requirements, not just the prevailing wage, but what exactly do they demand in terms of insurance, in terms of qualifications, in terms of.
So there's no qualification requirement. You would need to submit a W-9 to the town and secure a vendor number. That vendor number allows the job to be invoiced and then paid out of the grant funds. So what we would do is you would pick one or two people using a prevailing wage number as the rough estimate of what you would pay them per hour for the project. Then they would send an invoice to the town, and the town would pay out for the work done.
I have a question. Is this something that maybe the light stuff, but and I may be thinking this is going to be easy, but is this something that maybe the wood shop or something from the school could, get some, no,
Not in the context of this grant, unfortunately. We could set up a separate project for something like that at some point, but as soon as you start involving, as soon as you start involving volunteer work and then students, it starts to get progressively more complicated.
okay. Well,
I was also, I put this even into the plan, a question about how we would qualify these people. In other words, I think we need to have a resume or some equivalent. We need for them to give a couple of references. And then I do think we should have them interviewed either by somebody from the town or somebody who's a qualified carpenter who could determine if in fact they're capable of doing something like this. I guess I'm a little bit nervous of somebody saying, oh, sure, I can do this, and then just sticking a grab bar on a wall without realizing it needs to be reinforced, or it may require something else like painting after that's applied. So it seems like there are a number of details still to be worked out with providers as opposed to clients on the other end of this. So
Just to clarify that stuff. I understand what you're talking about now. They have to be bonded. They have to be, and there aren't very many here that are bonded.
what about license?
Hold on a second. We have to do this at the Housing Authority, which has to go through all kinds of crap because it's prevailing wage. They have to be bonded. There are very few contractors here that are bonded. And anything that we don't hire them. This all goes through the personnel. They're the ones who do the interviews. They're the ones that check the qualifications, not us. So there's a lot of moving parts here. I mean, I can work with Jericho to get this straightened out, but there are an awful lot of moving parts before we send somebody into somebody's home.
There's a decent amount of that, but as I left it with HR and with town admin on this particular topic, the bonded issue is not a concern here because they're not doing work on the town's behalf.
Yeah.
The town is merely the financial agent passing the money from the grant provider to the people doing the work. So I don't believe we have to do the bonded thing as per Rachel and then the initial stuff I got back from Brian Turbin on this.
and what about
They have to
the,
be licensed and insured, though. They do have to have.
They
work-
do
and
need to
all
be
that stuff.
licensed and insured, and then the W-9 form includes that information in it, I believe. I don't believe they need a query, but they might also need a query back.
yes, I know they need a query check.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure exactly how that process works. I think you have to fill out some sort of a form, and then I guess there's many details to be worked out on the end of
So-
the handyman or providers or carpenters, whatever you want to call them, before we can even advertise this to seniors.
For the purposes of this discussion, I think we should just use the term handyman to be the person that we contract to do this. I
Okay.
think what you should do, once finance get back to me with the prevailing wage sheet, then I would reach out to people and offer this to them. And then we can publicly post it somewhere so that other people have a chance to participate.
Here's the one positive point, though. This is a grant coming to us. And the CPC hands out grants, obviously. And none of our grantees who get the money have to do prevailing wage. So if this is under the same type of deal that the CPC hands out, $3-4 million a year, if this isn't, none of our people that get the grants have to do prevailing wage. That
Yeah.
may be something that might, make the money go further if we don't have to do prevailing wage, because as you said, they're not working on a town project, which absolutely requires prevailing wage. They're coming through a grant to the private sector, which is what all of ours are. Then we
This
won't
is,
have to do prevailing wage. That's something to be scoped out here.
well, so the prevailing wage thing is something that's established. That is a necessary requirement for the purposes of this grant and us administering it. So the one thing, we need the W-9, we need the query check, we need the insurance, et cetera, which will be during the W-9 process that goes through HR, and they'll do the query and they'll do check all the dots and T's on insurance, et cetera. But we do need to do prevailing wage. That's the only thing that I know that was necessary past the W-9 and the query.
Now, why is it we have to do prevailing wage on a grant?
This is what town admin told me, so this is,
Well, you might want to ask him how this is different than CPC grants.
because in that case, the money is being collected, was it CPC or CRC, which one?
CPC, community preservation.
So I think this is because it's being administered by the town. That's the distinction between the two of them. It's intended to go to local people, so we have to use the. I'm not sure if that's a town requirement or guideline or not, but I don't think that the.
I would check it, just Jericho, I would just check this because the CPC is also administered by the town. Our funds are run through the town. We are a town state established entity. And none of our people that get the grants have to do prevailing wage. And if we can get around it by using the CPC example, that would be, we'd make this money go a lot farther.
Potentially, yes, but I've done about like maybe a couple of days on this, like back and forths with the parties that lead, and I have been universally told that we need to get the prevailing wage. That's the thing that I've heard from everyone.
Well, if it doesn't have to be prevailing wage, that's one thing. I think we need to figure out how we're going to contact.
I really think that we are, let's take the prevailing wage as given, because I am about 95% sure that that is going to hold, and that we should then look for, I think that in order to start actually doing this, getting the prevailing wage and then reaching out to people just on an interest level to see if the contracts, like get 3 or 4 contractors first, even like starting over the next week or so that we're ahead of the game when we do start signing people up for that.
Jericho, I would just like to comment that I have one person who I think could come through the process and maybe work out to do this, but the idea of getting 4 or 5 people, I think, is an overreach for this point, because we can't even really answer all of their questions. An additional question about insurance is, do they have to have workers' comp in addition to?
Yeah, I mean, they have to be a licensed they have to be a contractor.
Well, a lot of handymen are not licensed contractors. It's pretty unusual for them to have a quote license unless they are a general contractor doing big projects. And yet we're looking for handymen. So
the extent to which I have gotten any answers on this, it has been that the workman's comp, like it can be someone who is a working for their, like if they have their own company that can be set up and get through the W-9 inquiry process, then that is all taken care of. It's like you can't get a business license without working comp, et cetera, et cetera.
I guess I would ask, realistically, do you think that we can accomplish answering all of these issues in the next month?
I certainly hope so. I mean, I keep poking finance and town admin, but you know, there's 8 fires we put out at any given time, so there's only so much sort of bandwidth that I have for this particular thing. I do know that like the where I left it with, it was finance, Brian Turbot and Rachel, was that the next steps, according to them, were that we get some interest for people. We show them the prevailing wage. If they are interested, we try and get them W-9'd and vendor numbered, because there's no commitment of time or effort or money on their part from that. They'll be able to be paid out by the town directly through the invoicing system. So that, like, I'm assuming these are not going to be, like, these are not huge money projects. We have a total of like $7 grand to distribute, and these are 2 or 3 hour projects. So, you know, I'm assuming somewhere on the order of like a $500 to $1,000, like $500 is probably the upper limit for a particular individual project, is my guess, right?
Yeah, I don't think any of them is going to be very big.
So yeah, I mean, I know that if there's anyone who is a handyman who can get through the W-9 and vendor process, that's where the town considers them acceptable in terms of being paid and performing this task.
Thank you. Does
I like-
anybody else have comments or questions?
Well, I like the timeline that you have laid out, starting slow, identify and qualify 1 or 2 tradespeople, and, people who do caretaking work might be a little less busy in the summer, in the winter than they would be in the summer. So I think, we could probably look at the bulk of the things we get done as happening in the off season, and maybe we could utilize, I just saw a new caretaking group working downtown that's taking new business. So, this is just like a job for someone who's a caretaker. They just would be getting, the town approved wage for their work.
So if you see those things, or if you know of somebody, could people just send names to Laura so that I can follow up with each of them and see if they'd be willing to, start through the process?
I think,
So we go through the COA. We wouldn't call, maybe give them a heads up or something, but it would all be booked through this Laura, correct?
Everything would have to go through Laura, yeah.
I have a question, I'm sorry. What if, a contractor who is a contractor, they're going to be like $75 an hour or something like that. What's the prevailing wage? What does that mean?
So that's what I'm having trouble nailing down. Hold on, I'm going to do a quick Google search because I did get a rough estimate. They asked me for additional information afterwards, so I didn't want to report it back to Mary Ann as it wasn't final yet. But it's like in the 45 to 55 as a minimum, I think, for this. But let me double check on that.
So I guess my question is wouldn't we just pay them what if they come back to, if this particular person says I'm 75 or 95 or whatever they are, couldn't we just say, okay, and here are 3 people that we want you to do the work?
can we pay more than the prevailing wage?
Yes, you can. Although you have to explain why, because if you pay more than the prevailing wage, it can look like graft.
Yikes.
That's why it's a $500 toilet seat for the U.S. military. So you got to be kind of a little careful. The reason why they use a prevailing wage is so it doesn't look like you're just funneling money to the
Yeah,
person.
okay, I get it now.
And then there's the $7,000 shower curtain. None of us want to forget about.
Does anybody else have any other comments? Well, in that case, I think I'm gonna just work with Jericho during the next month. Anybody who has any suggestions, please send them on to Laura as soon as you have them. And I'll try to follow up with each individual and have a goal to try to get at least one handyman through the process by the end of next month. I think it might be ambitious to think of getting a whole bunch of them. Maybe we need a poster senior handyman in addition to a poster senior client.
Honestly, I actually think, and it's not just because she's my mom, I think Allison's idea about the caretakers is not a bad idea. You could potentially just contract directly with a single caretaking business, and then they would then do these for you as part of the contract you've made with the caretaking business.
Yeah, I agree.
We just, paying them on time would be a really good thing too. I don't know what the town, is there, how many days, 30 days?
No, they're basically, it's a bi-weekly pay period, and the invoices come out of that whenever they're requested.
Oh, okay.
So, I think the work has to be completed before they can be paid.
Right.
And I believe the prevailing wages applies to their hours of labor, so not necessarily materials. So, that can be finessed a little bit one way or the other. Either it's a.
That's another question too, then, is, say it is a grab bar. I know when I had to put a grab bar up for when Steve came and stayed, I had to, they have them at the pharmacy. So with the person that's putting it in, he would show materials and his labor. as opposed to us providing anything, correct?
I'm sure he would have to bill us, well, he would purchase the materials and
Okay.
then bill us for the materials as well as his labor.
And
Right.
so I thought, doesn't the fire department do it now to a limited extent? I mean,
They
do
do
they know?
generation safe, but they do not do physical installations of anything. Generation safe will change the batteries in your smoke detector, but they will not install you a new smoke detector.
And they'll
So-
put pads under your rugs if they see a rug that is slipping, but that's
They
the
are-
extent of what they do.
They
So-
are restricted in what they're allowed to do, and very specifically restricted from structural or anything like that.
Isn't there a governmental agency that comes in to assess and then, anyone who is doing work like I think someone from Elder Services or some state service will come in and say, oh yeah, you need this, that, and the other thing. It's too bad we couldn't be working off a list like that instead of just having the contractor swing by Marine and get a grab bar. I mean,
Sherry
Well,
may
no-
know, Sherry,
When somebody's,
know this.
sorry, go ahead.
Sherry Hunt may know this stuff.
Sherry
Yeah.
Hunt, as well as who's administering Gen Safe right now? It's Coakley. No, not Coakley. Hold on one second. The administrator of Gen Safe for the fire department. I forget.
Is
Sean
Sean
Mitchell must be
Yeah.
moving. Yeah, Sean Mitchell.
So I mean, when we get to the point when we can start looking for people to get stuff fixed for, that's a super resource. But we need to have the people to do the work, and we need to figure out how much they get paid in order to get that. So we have a little bit of a chicken and egg project here, and I'm gonna poke finance more.
I mean, I think that the people who, we need to be clear when we ask people to do the work. I mean, what if they don't know where a grab bar goes? You can put a grab bar 5 feet off the ground and it's not effective. So, there has to be some guideline as to if you need a grab bar, where and what height and what kind it is to be
Well,
80 compliant.
That happens, that, the guy comes in and the lady or guy is, on the commode or getting out of the shower and then that determines where the grab bar is and everything. So, it's not just, they're not going to come in just on their own and do it without somebody there. It does have to be to the extent of the man or woman's height and weight and that type of thing. And I remember when Steve came home from rehab, I think it was Sherry or the visiting, I don't know, but they came in and assessed things that needed to be done.
Right.
And then once the nurse, the visiting nurse, she was also the one that, told me what to do in order for.
Made recommendations.
Right. And yeah, I mean, I think the handyman, we're not sending somebody in blindfolded and say, here you go, you got to do this. There's going to be some extent that he knows he's going to be working, putting a hand bar in or putting a smoke detector in or something like that. They'll have a little bit of knowledge.
Yeah, I think we should find out from Sherry whether they do assessments for people who require or would be well served to have, besides grab bars, what are we talking about? Ramps are we talking about?
Yeah.
Some
they-
people can't go from one room to the other in a wheelchair because the floors are, there needs to be some sort of I don't know what you call that thing. It's not actually a ramp, but it allows you to go.
Over,
If you-
It is a ramp. It's just an elevation change.
Yeah,
Like over the threshold. I see what you're
yeah,
saying.
threshold, that's the word for it. Okay, a lot of
This is,
questions to be answered. Hopefully by next month, some of them can be checked off anyway.
I think that,
Yeah, Mary Ann, this is really good. I'm really
It's really
impressed.
good.
And it is going to take a lot of work. It felt so good just getting the money that all of a sudden it's like, yoy.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. But anybody who has any ideas, please just send them to Laura, even if you're not quite sure of it. everything, every bit helps. As a matter of fact, this discussion has been very, very useful, I think. And it's moving us ahead. Yeah, but it's true, it's not a smooth course.
You know, maybe I'll call Adam Saban, who does a caretaking gig, and just sound him out about it. You know, here's what the, Council on Aging is doing. Would you consider working with the town with these as guidelines, et cetera, and just feel them out?
That's great, very
Yeah.
helpful.
I mean, anyone who knows a contractor or a caregiver can maybe just run it by them to see what their questions are, because they, they might have even better ones.
Yeah, I definitely know of a few people that I could ask the questions for. And if they could, there was a couple of guys that helped me, were handyman, but I know that they weren't licensed. They just were retired guys that would come, and help me nail down pads on the outside stairway and stuff like that.
Well, anybody who knows anybody who could be a sounding board, that's very, very helpful. And I had a suggestion from a contractor who said I should try to call the guy who's in charge of Habitat for Humanity, because those are people who are already liable to want to do things to give back to the community. In other words, they've already signed up for that kind of thing, and they'd probably want to do something like this to benefit seniors. So
That's a great idea.
yeah, at some point I'll call, I can't remember his name, but he's the head carpenter on Habitat. So I'll try that one too. Thank you, everybody, for a really great discussion about this. Very, very helpful. I appreciate it. Okay, I'm going to move on to the next, which is Laura, to talk about the celebration of the 2021 Seniors of the Year.
Yeah. So we have decided on the date. It was emailed to everybody that we are on for January 27th. At noon, which is a Thursday. It's traditionally the last Thursday of the month. So we're hoping that will work. We have the date with Bill Pooter at the fairgrounds. We have an email in with Dylan Fernandez, the representative, and his Nantucket liaison, Charity Grace Moffson. Traditionally, the Dylan cannot come because they're in session on Thursdays, which has always been the issue. But I spoke with Charity today, and she will definitely be there to be able to hand out the citations. And the certificates from the town are down in the town building now, just waiting to be signed by the select board members, Libby. They'll come back to us, need to be signed by Mary Ann and Joey Gear. The date has been sent to Libby, so hopefully it's in her calendar. The invitations are printed, addressed, and stamped, and they are going to go out any day now. The RSVP is Thursday, January 6th. The two recipients know about it. They've okayed it. They'll both be here. We just need to get names of their invitees. Price of the meal is $25, which it has been for the past couple of years per person. So when everybody gets their invite, RSVP with scrod or prime rib. And the main thing that we need is an MC for the day. Usually it was Chuck Gifford, just because he liked to do that kind of stuff. So I guess that's kind of on COA to figure out who that's going to be able to lead the day. I always have an agenda that is just a basic agenda, and you just need to kind of read it and walk through it. And I would go over it with anybody that, just to make sure, but so we don't miss anything, like, acknowledging past seniors of the year so they can all stand up and clap, et cetera, et cetera. So we just need somebody to do that. And I'll talk to NCEA and get gifts And flower, I don't know if do we do flower? We might not do flowers if they're there. And then usually we'll have Bob Hall will take pictures of them with dignitaries or their families or friends or whoever they would like pictures with. So we have the ball rolling and we're going well. Any questions about anything on that end?
No, good job. Nice. Why don't you
Thank
be the MC?
Yeah, no,
No, yeah, no.
I know. I will break out in hives. That will not, I can't do it. But thanks for offering.
So it seems like if any of us
I-
knows of somebody who's comfortable
I
doing
think-
this. And
I think Diane's trying to check out. I can hear Diane, someone in the background. go,
I think
She just muted herself.
Go ahead, Diane, you're good.
And so Kendra, do you want to finish the notes? You're
I'm
so
s-
good at it.
What?
Diane is checking out. I think you weren't on when we were talking about who could take notes today.
Oh, yeah, fine. Oh, God. Here we go again.
I'll help you get them out, but
Okay,
just starting now, you don't have to start like things that you didn't do.
yeah, really. Okay, 220, what is it? 220? Okay, go ahead.
220. So if any of us has any names of people who would make a good master or mistress of ceremonies, please swamp Laura with names.
Is there any reason, Marion, why you're not going to use Chuck Gifford again this year?
I don't think he lives on island anymore.
Yeah, he
No, but
was-
he did last year or the year before.
doesn't
so
live
he moved
here.
off.
2 years ago, he doesn't live here.
No, but is that a requirement? Do you have to have a resident?
Oh, but it's
No.
hard to get over here that time of year, and they're usually away.
That's true. Okay.
Well, I actually take painting so I can ask Julie. I mean, I see him a lot.
Yeah, ask him.
I thought he was very good, so
He does very well.
yeah, he's very good at it.
Okay,
You could travel together, Kendra.
yeah.
Good. Thank you, Laura, for all that work. You're on top of it. Next up is Jericho to talk about human services and COVID-19 and all of its variants.
I am gonna do this briefly. I'll start with a discussion of booster shots, where you can get them now, what's gonna happen with them over the course of the next month. And I'll move on to a brief discussion of Omicron, which I'm sure you're all excited about. And then any questions, concerns, etc. you might have afterwards. Currently, booster shots are available at Nantucket Cottage Hospital. They're opening up at least one more, possibly 2 more days a week. So there should be an increase in the number of doses available, almost 2-fold for the month of December. The other locations at which you can get a booster shot are Dan's Pharmacy. Dan's only carries Moderna, but you can get a Moderna shot on top of Pfizer and a Pfizer shot on top of Moderna. The other location is Health Imperatives. Health Imperatives was formerly Planned Parenthood.
I'm sorry, can you say that again?
Health Imperative. Hold on a second. Health Imperatives, I believe they used to be Planned Parenthood or Family Planning. They are currently doing booster shots in the house, and they're going to open a couple more days. We're going to help staff them and the hospital with Heather, our town nurse. Subsequent to that, there are, it's just the 2 locations right now doing boosters. Sorry, 3 locations doing boosters. Dan's for Moderna only, Pfizer and Moderna on alternating weeks in the Nantucket Cottage Hospital, and then Pfizer only at
Health Imperatives.
Health Imperatives, yes.
Jericho, how many days a week is the NCH open?
Right now, simply Mondays, starting soon, TM probably next week, Mondays, Tuesdays, and Mondays and either Tuesdays or Wednesdays, depending on the scheduling matrix works out. Something on the order of 300 total doses per week, 300 total appointments per week for them, and then maybe 50 to 100 at health imperatives. I don't quite currently.
And that's boosters only, or?
Boosters only. Only place for a first or second dose is us on our next 3 Sunday clinics. So after this coming Sunday and then the next 2 Sundays, I will not know how to direct you to a first or second dose for at least a month.
And Dan's Pharmacy is anytime, I mean, you make an appointment?
Yep, I think then, I'm not sure if they're separating their days out, but I know that they have an online scheduling tool that gets updated live. If people are looking for an appointment there, they can either call in or visit the webpage and there's a scheduling tool on top of that. Oh, yeah. Any other booster specific questions I can answer?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. So next is, next is the deer survey. Now that I actually think about it, we've been monitoring deer. There's a state population biologist who's down monitoring and testing deer during hunting season for COVID, because deer can carry and pass COVID between each other at least. The test will be in shortly, but it does look like deer on Nantucket are probably carrying COVID. I'm not sure how it got there yet. Omicron. Omicron is the Omicron variant was identified in South Africa about a week to a week and a half ago. It is everywhere. It's already been detected in Canada and then most of Asia, which means that it did not start in South Africa. It probably started somewhere, got everywhere, and was identified in South Africa first. The Omicron variant has only been around for about a week, so there isn't a huge amount of information on it. I'm following a couple of scientists in South Africa who are doing, one of them was the person who identified it initially. There are a couple of small group studies, basically following the outcomes of less than 12 to 24 people that suggest it has mellow symptoms or milder symptoms. There is no increase in hospitalization rates or excess death rates in any of the areas where it's common. So it does not look to be more severe or more lethal than Delta does. It does look to be more virulent. That is, it spreads easier and is displacing Delta in the population. And the only way that it can displace Delta is if it spreads more and if it gets past immunity or vaccination, which this also appears to do. It can reinfect people who have already had the earlier variants, and there are some indications that it can escape the infection protection that a vaccine can give you, which means that you may catch it even if you're vaccinated. You may be able to pass it along if you are vaccinated, but you are not going to the hospital and you are not dying in higher rates, at least in these small sample size groups that we have good information on. I don't think it's a huge cause for alarm, but it is very different from wild type or heirloom COVID, and it's fairly different even from the newer variants. So it is likely to be a persistent variant that's going to be kind of replacing Delta in the population and potentially reinfecting Delta. Best news on that front, though, is because Omicron is well spread and has probably been established for a fair amount, and we haven't seen that excess death spike, and haven't seen the hospitalization spike, it probably is not escaping the strongest protections of the vaccine, which is to keep you in the hospital and keep you from dying. And then I think that's basically it for COVID updates. Behavioral health assessments underway. There was a Citizens Academy project that Worcester Polytechnic did that was doing surveys on knowledge of municipal governance, and then a pilot project of starting a Citizens Academy somewhere on the island. And then
I'm sorry, Jericho, you're going too fast. What was that? Citizen what?
Oh, so WPI, Worcester Polytech, a bunch of their college students came down here and did a project collecting data to see how informed people were about the structure of municipal governance. And with the intent of establishing what's called a citizens academy, which is basically sort of an educational way to explain what the town government does, how everything works, how the CDC is not the state, is not the local health department, that sort of thing. I know this has been a pet project of Libby's for a few years as well. And they spread that around. They might be doing more on that as well. Other stuff that has crossed my plate of late. The behavioral health assessment leadership team is starting to report starting to publicize the findings of the behavioral health assessment, and is going to be starting to create work groups to make to address gaps we found in the behavioral and mental health coverage of the island. You should start seeing more stuff for that, specifically targeted towards seniors, as there's a lot of behavioral health resources are being freed up at state levels, and there's going to be increasing funds and awareness of both substance and behavioral health problems in the regular age population, and then there's some special focus on senior targeted behavioral health issues as they arise. So there's a fair chance that the behavioral health assessment will be drafting members of, the behavioral health leadership team will be drafting members of this group and possibly NCDA, as well as ESCCI members to participate in a work group that would be a senior focused mental health issue. More on that, most likely in the new year, but that's just sort of stuff that's backburnering right now. I think that's basically it for my updates.
I've got a question. So all of the Build Back Better and all of this, the money that's going to be coming through hopefully coming through after the next Senate vote on, I mean, how is that money going to trickle down to us? And can we be looking at things that we'd like to do with it when it gets here, or,
So if it follows the pattern that the previous two, the CARES and PrEP Act did, CARES was primarily reimbursement. So it gave you categories of expenditures that you could be paid back for by the town. So there wouldn't be, in that particular model, there's no money coming in. You spend money and we cover you for that afterwards. With PrEP, it was a similar thing. With Build Back, although there was a significant amount of money freed up for infrastructure and other uses, we got from town finance, we got a estimated breakdown of what we would be seeing and where it would go and what it could be used for. If 3B, what is called Build Back Better 3B, whatever, 3B. 3B is the similar pattern, most likely about 2 weeks after the passage of the bill. The state will get the packet from the federal government, then the state will do a certain amount of distribution, and we'll get an estimate of how much money will be available and for what uses. So that's not something I can speculate on a time frame of, but usually within like, I think it was 3 weeks after the passage of the bill last time. And then we'll know roughly what money's coming in and where it can go, and then how it can be dispersed. I don't know the specifics of 3B enough to know like if it's going to be grant disbursement or if it's going to be direct infusions into municipal accounts. So I can't tell you too accurately what that's going to look like or how much we're going to have, but it will be a fairly substantial amount of money.
it would be nice to point out how we've been helped as a community or as a board, or how the seniors are benefiting from some of the money that's been coming in through the state from the federal government. I mean, I know that at the ESCCI meetings, they're talking about some very decent money coming in. They've been reimbursed for programs, but how does that shake down to us and on Nantucket in specific, and even more specific to the senior population? It would be nice to have some set examples. So
I do not know that information. Like, it's trying to tease out that sort of thing usually takes a graduate student 2 or 3 years after the bill is passed and put in. So I
Oh,
do
come
not
on.
know, really, like, really, that, like, the, you know, my guess is that you could find programs, and then you could find programs that are funded by the different acts, or at least expenditures that are compensated for that. But that is to do that on a systemic level is very labor intensive. Like, I can say that, for example, the CARES Act allowed us to write off and be reimbursed for labor done on a vaccine clinic, but I can't say like this particular thing was funded by this particular bill with any certainty. Not easily anyway. Most of that stuff is ad hoc. We invoice out, or we keep track of it. It goes into finance. Finance sends it off to the feds, and it then deals with an audit or not an audit, depending upon what it is. But that's not a particularly easy to parse out bit of information for me, at least.
Well, so do council, and I'll quit in a minute, but so do
No,
councils on aging request money? Because I was actually, this is an interesting, I was talking to somebody at the new Hayes property about how little the seniors get. And, people don't even bother applying or asking sometimes for things, because the history is that the seniors on Nantucket really are not looked out for very well. And it was interesting. She said, the first 18 years and the last 18 years of your life should be basically the same when it comes to support from your community, and how we bend over backwards for instance, the students in our school systems, and that there should be equally as much on the last 18 years of your life, which can vary, of course, depending upon how old you are and how well you are. But, I think we need to make a bigger effort on getting things, measurable things for the senior population on Nantucket compared to the past. I mean, I can't think of anything that's, any program or anything that has exploded or has benefited the seniors in specific on Nantucket in a long time. And it'd be nice to have, again, a poster example, or, this is what the Council on Aging, or the, through the state, through the federal government, is proposing to do or has done for our seniors. And I just think we need to look for some programs that will make an impact, to our group here.
Can I make a comment about that, Allison?
Please.
Because I just noticed today that the Massachusetts Council on Aging has some money available for caregivers who need some kind of relief from caregiving. And they're offering scholarships in addition to program money. So I'm assuming a scholarship means cash given to a caregiver in order to allow them to get some relief from what their person they're having to take care of. And I think we should apply for that money.
Yeah.
I mean, it came out today from the Massachusetts Council on Aging. I just noticed it and I thought, this seems like a hands down easy one to just ask for money. I mean, we might not get it, but it's so easy to just hand somebody some cash so they can go to a movie or get their hair done or whatever, to get some relief, get somebody to babysit the person that they're caregiving.
I mean, and I think that is that's how you find with grants. You have to go look for them for the most part.
Well, that one just kind of landed in my in tray, and I thought, this just seems like, I wouldn't even think twice about this. Yeah, ask for the money.
I mean, yeah, but as we're learning from this handyman thing, that initially just,
Yeah, it's not all that. Well, that's why I like the idea of scholarships. I mean, it seemed like that way you could just hand somebody the cash and let them figure out how to solve their problem.
I don't know the specifics of that, but from what I've seen from other grants, I imagine it's going to be a little more elaborate my guess is if they say scholarship, they mean that like you give them the receipt from whatever course you do and they reimburse you for it. That just seems to be I do not know of a grant that just hands out cash.
I'm gonna follow up just to
Please
find out.
do. I would love to be wrong on that.
Okay,
But like, that's the thing, that's sort of what the greater umbrella COAs are for Massachusetts is trading information, looking for these particular grants. Like there isn't a big, there's a lot of different directories of grants and there's a lot of hunting through that has to be done
Yeah,
in
I'm
order to
sure.
find all the various ones. When I do hear about anything downstream from Buildback Better, I will report to the board on it and I'll see if there's anything that jumps out to me as resources we could apply for. But a lot of this stuff a lot of these big block chunks of money get absorbed for existing projects sometimes. So I know that like part of the town's municipal, like a municipal broadband or a municipal wireless network is being paid for as part of the CARES Act money because it's infrastructure that can assist in people using and connecting to health services, that sort of thing. So when it starts to get to be large amounts of money relative to like the $7,000 to $10,000 that we get for like the Handyman grant or whatever, then it starts to be, more competitive and then more specific, and you have to kind of like, it's a heavy lift to get into some of those because they're often pre-allocated.
I'd like to see us do something that we could publicize about a program for seniors. And maybe some new seniors, not just ones that, need caregiving help, but people who are looking to make, their lives more vibrant or whatever. I mean, a program that, so I'm looking as well, but
There are several programs that are applicable to this sort of thing, like a quality of life. We call them level 2 grants for CRC, things like the art therapy program that is coming through the CRC grant from Nantucket Artists Association. A big part of this behavioral health thing is a push towards pro-social activities and generational mixing in terms of creating more robust structures to support people across generations. But I mean, I think there's, what I would really like to see is us get this Handyman project like locked down so we have pretty good experience in administering these grants so that we can do a thing and then start requesting more money. I got to apply from finance about prevailing wage that might be relevant. But yeah, it's definitely, there's it's not a trivial matter to apply for money and then administer it. And if you don't successfully use your money in a way that they like, it's less likely to get more money in the future. So a big chunk of this kind of activity for us, at least for COA administered grants, is getting the nuts and bolts and the mechanics of actually administering the grant down.
I think it's finding something that we can offer that people would participate in. I mean, I think we could get money from a lot of different places, but we need to come up with some ways to get people involved in the senior community. I mean, I can't tell you all the people that I know that aren't even members of the Salt Marsh that are 65 and 70. So that's just not, how do we get those people in?
Is that the cat? Did he get on? I know that. Look.
Yeah, the cat's on the table. Get down. Get down.
Yeah, you guys can definitely be making partnerships with NCEA. You can be doing events. You can be like Laura can put anything you want in that Salt Marsh. Well, not anything you want, but can put a lot of stuff into that Salt Marsh newsletter. We can be doing activities and events in a variety of contexts. So I mean, I think that like there is definitely much we can do in this particular front.
are there any questions for Jericho or any comments? Okay, thank you, Jericho. That was comprehensive. Appreciated.
Sorry. I start to.
You have a large portfolio, so very much appreciated. Laura, I know that you've given us an update on everything that's going on at the Salt Marsh. I don't know if you want to make any other comments or just invite questions from people.
The only other comments to make are that our little crafting group did have a wreath down at the Festival of Wreaths, and they do have a tree put down at the Festival of Trees, and that's all thankful to NCEA. So go down and see it. Our tree that they also decorated in town is at 22 Federal Street, which is right in front of the Culinary Corner. So you can go down and check that out too to get in the holiday spirit. Paul Connors, of course, is going to do a little sing-along with Christmas carols on the 21st via Zoom. So that's always fun. And we usually get the Island Home and Sherburne Commons to chime in on that. So that's always good. And we're doing lots of Christmas crafting with the ladies on Mondays. They have all sorts of different things to do, from tags to wrapping paper to a kissing ball and a greens arrangement. So spread the word to get in the holiday spirit. Other than that, everything's going great. You know, it's not busy, but there are some new people who have come back from their little vacation. So it's nice to see everybody. So we're just chugging along down here. Come down and say hi.
Yes, those of you who are members, go down to the Salt Marsh. And bring along a friend who's not yet a member.
Right, exactly. There you go.
Any questions or comments for Laura? Thank you. Lots going on. Allison, do you want to give us an update on Dementia Friendly?
Yes, I'm hoping to get AJ Malesko on the next Frank and Mary as a way to talk about the longest day, which is December 21st. I'm going to ask Laura to distribute a link to the Alzheimer's Association for people that they're sending out kits for people with bags with candles in them to put out on your porch on the longest day, the winter solstice. But I'm looking for any way to get people talking about dementia friendly and Alzheimer's, and nothing has become of the grant that was written to these for the Title III that we got, that the Memory Cafe didn't get, has not gone anywhere with anyone else either. So I'm looking for any support inside or outside of this, mostly outside of this board, but anyone who wants to participate inside. But Laura, I think I'll send to you the link that I got in the Alzheimer's thing, because it would be great if people, and I know that there are a lot more people touched right now. I mean, I know a lot of people who are dealing with Alzheimer's and dementia right now that aren't part of a support group. And so just, even if you aren't dealing with somebody, but would be interested in participating in the longest day when it comes to getting the votives and bags and talks out. I'll send Laura that link to put in the calendar, in the Gazette. And if we could all participate, they'll send you for free a kit to put on your front porch with bags and lights to show support for Alzheimer's research. So that's my only thing for today.
Allison, is that an island thing, or is that a statewide?
Statewide, New Hampshire and Massachusetts' Alzheimer's Association are the people doing it. You have until the 13th of December to order your stuff.
So people, the 13th of December to ask for the package. And so that all the little towns around Massachusetts that are involved with the dementia program would be having this bag light.
I mean, there are individuals, if you're a skilled nursing facility or an assisted living place, they'll send 50 bags with lights. So I'm going to ask that the Island Home participate in that. And
Sherburne Commons,
Homestead.
Homestead, Sherburne Commons, maybe?
Yeah, I mean, who's at Sherburne Commons? It's Kevin's not there anymore, so who would I direct? I'll ask Vanessa.
How about Vanessa?
Vanessa, or Dave, you know, go to David Worth, right? I mean, he's accessible, right?
I'll go to Vanessa.
Yeah, there you go.
She's the
Question,
doer.
Allison, am I ordering those or are you?
I'm ordering them from me. If you want to order them for the Council on Aging, maybe you could get
So-
50.
You want to order them for me to advertise in the newsletter to get out to the community?
No, I'll
Or-
send you the link that explains the whole longest day thing.
Right, I understand that.
And
I
then
just want to know what my role is.
we'll just put it, well, put it in the newsletter and
And then
then,
it would be an individual thing, or is Laura getting?
Am I getting 50 and
50.
advertising in the newsletter? Come down to the Salt Marsh and pick up
No,
your
no,
little
no,
thing to
no.
celebrate the longest day.
no, I think that you'd have 50 for the salt marsh to put out. And then people could order them individually if people didn't get them in time and, because I think they're lit at 7 PM or something on the longest day. It might not, you might not be open then.
So am I giving those out, those 50 that I order for the Salt Marsh? Am I giving them?
No,
I'm not going to be here at 7 PM to light them all at the Salt Marsh. so
right, but
I'm a little confused.
maybe see if you can, maybe ask if you can get for the salt marsh 50 and then,
And give them
Give them
out.
away,
yeah,
Right. Come down to the Salt Marsh and pick up your,
right?
Yeah.
And then, okay, so they're gonna, and then also what you would put in the Salt Marsh letter is that you can, the link that if you
to order them.
Yeah,
you
yeah.
could order one for yourself.
yeah. And, ultimately what they're doing is they're getting people that they'll then solicit for donations, which is something that everybody does, but at least, it's an awareness
well,
thing.
No,
So if somebody signs up
they're gonna get,
individually to get one of these things, the Alzheimer's group is then going to solicit those people. We don't
Well,
want that.
You know what? I
They
don't.
can solicit me, but they can't solicit our seniors.
Well, if your seniors sign up to get one individually, they'll need an email address.
but all right.
But I don't think I can advertise that.
No,
and
don't.
have
Yeah,
the
I mean,
end result be a solicitation.
I-
That's why I was
I
saying,
think-
why don't I just order 50, put on the newsletter, come down to the Salt Marsh and have a little blurb of like what we are celebrating, remembering, and then they can solicit me all they want.
Right.
But to have
But
them
they're not gonna
solicit
put them
our seniors,
LinkedIn.
is not,
Yeah.
you can't do that.
Well, I think that if people, I mean, it's also about information. It's not only about money, but you'll definitely be put on the mailing list if you request to get 5. If you request this package, you're going to go on their mailing list to get information. I think it's
I don't
really good
know.
information.
We can ask Rachel about that. I'm not comfortable with that. Putting that in my newsletter and then having them being solicited. I would rather, if you would like information about this,
Here's the link.
somehow to get around it so their email is not with the Alzheimer's unless they understand what they're getting themselves into. You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Absolutely not. My mother just got scammed for $5,000. Absolutely not. No emails, no phones. It all
Yeah.
goes through Laura and the newsletter.
I think that people
They
can
don't
have
know.
the option to sign up because it's not just solicitation, it's information.
On their
So-
own, yes, but not with us promoting that.
Yeah,
So-
see, I can't promote it.
Yeah, so
Then
that-
don't. I don't think it's a good idea to promote it anyway. I think you should get
Okay.
50, you should get, as the Council on Aging and the
Great.
Saltman Senior Center,
So I'm ordering those.
yep. And so
Okay.
apply for it and see what they say.
Okay, got it.
So we can publicize that we have them to pick up and we could provide information about the program. We could not, for example, put a direct link into that because that would be both like a bad offset, but bad security, and also be getting real close to the line of us soliciting and
Yeah.
fundraising for an outside organization.
I don't want us to give out them. I think we should light them. And if Laura's not going to be there, then someone else can go down and light them as a
No,
show.
wait a minute,
for it.
why can't we give them out? I don't understand what your point is. Why would we light 50 at the Salt Marsh when we could get 50 client or guests to do it?
Because
I don't
You know,
get it.
let me find out more about it. I mean, it's about awareness. And so if you put five, luminaries, the reason I got the notice is because I'm a member and I read their newsletters every time they come out because it's really important information. Have I donated to them in the past? Yes. Do they always ask if you'd like to make a donation? Yes. So it isn't like, they're going to beat down your door and send somebody to you. It's an information
I
process.
guess
So
my question is, Allison, is why are you feeling like Laura shouldn't get the 50 and say, come get one, and we're doing it for the longest day, and here's the reason?
because I think that when you get 50, you're supposed to put them out all together as a show of support. It's like it lights up your stoop. And
But
I
all
don't
over the island. And I agree with Kendra. I mean, we hand them out and everybody all over the island puts them out. That's what I think we're missing here. Kendra and I are on the same page here. But Laura gets
I mean,
50.
I get the impact of 50, but even if somebody walked by somebody's house and said, oh, you had a light on, and that was because it's in, direct,
well,
we're trying awareness.
let me be in touch with them and find out if that's an option, if they would send us 100 and we would then give them out to people who, because what they really want is awareness. And that makes sense. I know that,
Doing what?
Isn't it kind of like they used to
Really
put the
wet,
blue
Evan.
lights out? Wasn't that for Alzheimer's?
Yes.
no, that was
Everybody put
autism.
blue- Oh, so same thing though, but it wasn't like one building was lit up. It's each individual person. Who's gonna walk by the salt marsh at 7 o'clock at night?
Right.
And it's actually, and I don't think it's actually 7. I think it's earlier than that, but maybe I'm wrong. But because I was reading about it too, but
I'll send you guys the link and you can see what you want to do with it. I'll find out whether they'll send the Council on Aging a couple hundred for us to then distribute to our population. I think
okay,
that's
that
the
just
best way
went
to
from
do it.
50 to 100 to a couple hundred. I think we have a couple hundred members at the Salt Marsh, Laura?
Each person can get 5. I mean, it's an awareness. Let me talk to them and find out whether we
Great
can
idea.
distribute them, because we don't do anything for through the Alzheimer's Association. So they always ask me what to do. Maybe this is something that they can do for us, is supply lights to distribute to the seniors as a show of support. So I'll follow up with them and get back to you, Laura, because it's a timely thing. All right.
And speaking of timely things, we are starting to run close to our window for this account.
Oh, sorry to take so long.
Okay,
No,
Allison,
that's
do you have-
literally what we're here to do.
do you have
That's
anything
what-
quick to say about elder services at Cape Cod and the Islands?
We didn't meet, we're meeting next Tuesday. We combined the December and November meeting, so I have nothing to report other than Leslie Shear is retiring. They did find a replacement for her to be the Elder Services of Cape Cod and the Islands Executive Director. I haven't met that person yet. Her name is Mary Ann Worth, believe it or not.
Who's retiring?
Her name is Leslie Shear, SCHEAR.
SCHEAR from,
Been the executive director of ESCCI for 32 years and has done a great deal for the Cape Cod and the Islands group with the state AAA,
okay.
Yeah.
Good.
She's hard to replace.
The last item on the agenda, which I'll wrap up in 60 seconds, is just to let everybody know that the annual appeal that NCEA makes has so far netted them $20,750.
Oh
as
my
of
gosh.
2 weeks ago, just from that mailing, which was running about $2,000 less than last year, but that was 2 weeks ago, and there's still more time. So I'm sure they'll be collecting.
How much was it, Marianne?
Pardon?
How much?
They have gotten $20,750.
Thank you.
That's the one appeal I didn't get.
I just got mine yesterday.
I don't get that one, thank heavens.
Well, if you're a
You
member of
should.
the Salt Marsh, you definitely should have gotten it.
Are you not a member? Okay, go ahead.
It's a different mailing list. It's NCEA got their mailing list through the town.
Oh,
So you would have to bring that up with Jean Grimmer.
No, that's
But
absolutely fine. I don't need a solicitation letter from the NCEA.
you weren't old enough at the time when they got their mailing list organized.
Oh, good.
And I
Okay,
can't give out that information from our members, so.
all right. Marianne, is that it? Are we?
yes. So since we're up against a time constraint, I'm gonna close the meeting. And I want to thank you, Kendra, for taking minutes.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Appreciate it. Thank you for doing that. And thank you, everybody, for contributions and being here. I think it's been a very worthwhile meeting. So see you after Christmas and
Happy New Year, everybody. Merry Christmas.
2022.
Yeah.
Can I get somebody to?
Happy
make a motion
holidays.
to-
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I second it. Allison seconds.
Everybody in favor, say aye.
Aye,
Okay, thank
Linda.
you.
Allison. Okay,
All right.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. Great
bye.
to see you, Jude. I missed you.
Jericho.